Alright, hello again everyone. So I have another crappy demo for you, kind of thing. And this stems from my need to talk about coding to people that don't understand coding and show them things that I've done. Now, if you're a coder, you might know this. It's really hard to explain to someone that, yes, okay, it's a black screen, it's a blank screen, it's just a button, but everything underneath is really cool and took a long time and blah, 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 blah. So, let's start off by I forgot to build, loading up this, okay? It's very simple. It's a layout for a whatever, ship, building, doesn't matter. And I can click things. And things change. Somewhat reliably. Okay? So if I... Whatever, okay. So that looks like shit. But I want to show you what happened under the covers. And now if I want to add something else to it, how long it will actually take. So let's start with the rendering, okay? So this here is my sprite class. This is every 2D, basically every 2D sprite in the game does use this, okay? So I have also a texture. See, this is why I should plan better, but I suck, so here we go. Okay, so ignore all this. So this is my texture class. Oh my god, shut up. Loud people. So there's one thing I did do. I made this kind of like my own zip file thing. Excuse me one second. So this can load from that, from my own zip file. Like it's this crush system I made. Ooh, sexy. Or it can just load from a normal file name. And if that texture doesn't exist, it loads this awful default, which is just a pink dot, which you'll see in a moment. I can show you. Wrong one. Did I disable that? Really? Never mind. So that's all well and good. This here, UV coordinates of a texture are basically start at the top left at 0, 0, the bottom right is 1, 1, and everything in between is a fraction of that. So if you have 4 squares on a sprite sheet, it's 0 to 0.5, you know, in a square, and that's how you get your box for you cut your image up with it. So that works out that height and width's pretty obvious. Add sprite to render queue. That is what gets the world position of the vertices. If you don't know what a vertex is, or even UV coordinates, it's really good to look it up. I won't be covering it here because I'm useless. So that just pushes it into my render queue, which I'll show you in a minute. This is another thing that pushes stuff onto the render queue. This is why you should name your variables a bit better. This is the render queue for the texture, and this is the render queue for the game. So what I do is, as a matter of efficiency, anything that's running on the same texture, I batch render it at once. So all those blocks, while they're all, it's 400 elements here, but it's only one render call because it's all the same sprite. Now, if I fire up my web page and go to my statistics, wherever that is. Am I blind? Yes. So you have render calls 1. So literally the data gets sent to the graphics card once, and that's good. You want to have as little data traveling between the CPU and the graphics card as possible. So as you can see, yeah, there are 800 triangles being rendered, so 400 objects because it's 2 triangles per square. Pretty simple. And it's running at about 260 frames per second. Not fantastic for what it is, but whatever. I haven't really optimized anything yet. So yeah, that's what that does. And then this is just, it shows the texture stuff on that web page I just showed you. So that's just the texture side of things. Then from the sprite side of things, this is the setup. You could put in any width, any height, any number of frames, any texture type, size, all that kind of stuff. You can lock it to the camera, so if it's something like a HUD, if you move the camera around from what you're pointing at, like if the guy's moving across the screen and you want the score to stay at the top right all the time, you can do that and that'll automatically update. Works at, you can set rotation, which is kind of fun, scales, set frame, that changes the block it's on from a texture. That more comes into account with animations. You don't really do that for non-animated things. A bunch of other math stuff. Rotation. Rotate on the Z. Yes, that's that way. Yeah, whatever. So this is what works out the position that the 6 dots of 6 vertices, 3 for each triangle, are actually going to go. So this is if there's no angle, and this is if there is an angle. Sorry, no angle. Oh, go away. Yeah, so no angle, angle, and lock to camera. I really got to test that now that I think about it. It's probably not going to work, but it works for now. I haven't tried the look to camera yet. So that's the sprite and texture part of it. Then I have this render manager which goes through and actually does all the rendering, which is here. So it just goes through and just renders it all. It's all pretty simple. If you've done any kind of coding before, you'll notice this. A vector is just like a queue of items. So first in, first out. Doesn't matter. There's all different types of data structures that go first in, first out, like a queue at a bank or something. God, shut up. Ignore Stephen. Or you have first in, last out. So the stack. So think of it like a stack of things. So first thing, second thing, third thing, fourth thing, that's fourth thing, third thing, whatever. It's just some statistics functions. Okay, so it doesn't matter. So that's my rendering system. Now, that doesn't include the setup for the graphics card and the window and all that kind of stuff. That's just rendering. But if I want to render something, let me find a good example. Like this guy here. This sprite it's meant to be that pink square that apparently I've gotten rid of, which is annoying. Have I? Apparently not. Doesn't matter. Doesn't work. It was working before. Why isn't it working? Ah, there it is. I'm just stupid. So that pink square is actually because the texture is missing, so it just scales this one dot pink dot up to that size, whatever size. So for me to render this pink square, which could be any sprite, any combination of alphas and colors and sizes. I've lost where I am. It's just literally this one function call. That's all it is. I call render, and everything else is done in the background. If I want to have some kind of cascading thing that looks cool, and I get someone to draw it and animate it, all I have to do is load it in, which is, once again, I don't know where it is. It's a single function call. You just enter the sprite name, the width, the height, and the frame. So the frame width, the frame height, and the frame number. The width and height is taken from the picture itself. It works out how many frames there are. So if you have a 512 by 512 image, you say the frame is 256 by 256. 4 frames. You pick frame 3. It's going to go 1, 2, 3. Whatever. That's all automatic in the background, and that's something that maybe you don't think of when you're not a programmer and you're looking at this kind of things. Like I spent 3 years making a black screen come up. Yeah, that's fine. But if you give me some art, because I can't draw for shit, I can get it up on the screen for you in minutes rather than days or weeks or years. All this other stuff is I'm building a ship at the moment with different things, so it's all just crap at the moment. It doesn't really matter. So that's the rendering part of it. So it's really easy, just one function, one line of text, and you're ready to go. And that's awesome. When I was in uni, it was similar, but you kind of had to do some updating beforehand, and then you had to make sure the render was called somewhere else, and it wasn't really as fluid, in my opinion anyway. Then the next thing that was cool, or I think's cool, besides the fact that this spacebar actually works now, is you click this, okay, and it does stuff. That's cool. That's not a trivial matter. In 2D, it's a lot more trivial than 3D, but it's still not very trivial. It's still a lot of work. And I want to show you. So this class here, this is my input manager. This does keyboard and mouse input, and soon to be Xbox. Just tangled. I just dropped something. My meter. An Xbox 360 controller input, and see, freaking in the way. Which is it's not too hard to tack on. I've done it before. So let's go to the top and let's have a look what it's doing. So this is just initializing stuff. Doesn't matter. This is uninitializing stuff. Ignore that. So poll keys. It gets the state of the keys. It gets the state of the mouse. Into an array of bools. A boolean is just on or off if you've never done programming before. This thing here is so that your mouse can stay in the middle of the screen, so it'll always be right there or wherever. And also as an extension, so it doesn't actually go off the screen, but I haven't set that up yet. You can actually get rid of the cursor altogether, but I like it for obvious reasons. But you could, overwrite the cursor, which I really have to make something for that. A sprite, render it wherever the mouse should be. More initialization stuff. This here tells me if a key is down during the current frame. It doesn't matter if it's been. That's all you need to know for that part. The next part is this key hit. So, like in a. Okay, think of any game with a pistol. A pistol is you click and you shoot once. Keep holding the click down, it doesn't shoot again. You mash the click and it keeps shooting. That's kind of what this key hit is. Only if the key was newly hit that frame, which kind of looks like it's not going to work properly if you have more than one. God, I hate seeing errors in my own code. Doesn't matter. So I only trigger once per hit, which is sometimes needed. This updates the mouse positions. This adjusts it to the window. So if you move, this is actually a lot of trouble I had. I spent about a day fixing this up. So if you move this over here, it still works. Whereas before, it used to think, okay, you've clicked here, which is actually, here now, or whatever. And if you move the camera around, because right now I'm in the center, if you were to move it up here, it would still think you're in the center and would do weird things. So that's what that does. That's my left mouse, middle mouse, right mouse, and down. So that's just updating it. Then this clicking. Now this is my clickable. I don't know why I did that interface. Basically, if you tack this class on to any object in the game, it'll be able to be clicked, and you can piggyback off that functionality. It's once again, it's one function call or one line, and then you just put in your functions for mouse down, mouse up, mouse hover, left, right, center, all that kind of stuff. And it's very simple. But this checks to make sure it's on camera. So if the thing's off camera, you're not going to want to click it, obviously, in case the mouse falls out of screen or something stupid like that. This updates it all automatically. So once you tack on this functionality, you don't have to actually update it. It does all the updating in the background for you. You don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is say, okay, there's this function I want to call when the mouse goes down on it. And I'll do that for you. You don't have to worry about it. That's what all this does. This is that web page dump again. And this is the click box. So if you move the sprite around the screen, the click box will no longer stay up there. It'll go with it. I don't think that's automatic because I'm a bit stupid, but it doesn't matter. And as a result, if I go to this block and I go to this here, so I've just implemented this clickable and I've copied it in, and then I just have this function on click, which is not implemented here because reasons. Is it an Alt U? Got this new thing. What am I looking for? Shift lock. So on mouse down, that's all I've done is just change the block type, making sure I don't, run into unidentified space. I just have this little if. But generally, it's just you implement this function, it'll do whatever you want. So at the moment, I'm making like a build menu. So you click a square, and the build menu will pop up, or whatever. I don't know how I'm going to implement it. But that's all it is. It's just that one function. It'll do everything for you. It'll tell you which mouse button is down and whatever else. So in my opinion, that's handy because it's only your one line and you're ready to go. I don't think there's much else I wanted to show you. Okay, actually, yeah, there is. Okay. So, like, it's not just the engine I'm working on, it's like game tech. So, this is, if I open up, I've created some layouts and stuff. So, this is my layout. It tells me width and height, what texture, and what block is in each square. I could probably do it a lot more efficiently, but just for debugging purposes, text is fine. I've created an editor for it, so if I open up the computer's running really slow. The editor, you know, you can see it there. I can edit squares. It's ugly. I can go test layout 2 and close that. I can open up my test ship. I can go, I want to use test layout 2. And I go into the game here 5, and it's the new layout. And that's what I've been working on. So if you, as a consumer, want to add a new ship in, it's just as easy of, okay, that's the name of it, that's how big it is, that's the layout, that's the sprite for the top thing, and that's your XP. So if you want to have something like this thing I completely stole from Diablo 2. When I used to mod Diablo 2, it had this same kind of thing. It was an Excel, it was a comma separated value sheet, so CSV, and you enter in your XP for every level, and you'd have differing XP for different things. So that's what that does. But yeah, so like it's literally just a single button press. So if I edit this shit, single button press, and I'm back to where I was before. And that's what I've been working on. You can do so many things with just a single line of code now, because all the other stuff's in the background. So this has taken me a good, 4 years or whatever, off and on, obviously. I haven't been working 4 years straight, otherwise I'd be going fucking mental that I haven't finished yet. But it's ready to go. The underlying stuff is there, ready to go. Like, it's not efficient completely, definitely needs a lot of work, but I can do that later if I need to, and I can start making things on screen really quickly. Like rendering out this layout. It's if I want to load in this ship and render it, it's literally like I give it the file name, which is this test.ship, which reads all this crap in, which reads all this crap in, which reads all this crap in, which is a sprite definition here, and does all that in the background. One line. I set its position, and then it's ready to go, and that's it. I'm hitting F5 to refresh. I'm going, if this key is hit, ignore the fact that it says DIC. It stands for Direct Input Keyboard. F5 is hit, delete the ship, and load it again. It's that simple. That's all I have to do. Everything else is in the background. And that's the thing that it's so hard to explain to non-programmers. Like, my wife understands a little bit, mostly because I've drummed it into her head, and she did a little bit of programming back in high school. But someone like my mother or my father, they don't really get it. It's, why haven't you done it yet? Why haven't you finished? Like, my mum, I've been telling my mum, no, I've been working on a game, because she'll call me up every couple of nights. Well, what are you doing? I'm programming a game. Oh, why haven't you finished yet? Because it's a lot of work. It's not just a matter of typing quickly. It's a thinking experiment. It's bug fixing. Don't even get me started on non-programmers and bugs, but it's so much work, and people don't get it. And it's so hard to explain to someone why a black screen took me 3 years to do. And like, I don't know why I feel like showing it off. There's not a lot to see. I mean, the fact that I got this clicky thing working made me so fucking happy, because I was tearing my hair out and I realized I had my plus and minus the wrong way around. Just because the screen, Windows sends you the screen coordinates. The top left is 0, 0. And in my game, the middle is 0, 0. In Windows, the bottom right is positive, positive, and for my game, the bottom right is positive, negative in XY coordinates. So it really fucked with me as a result, just because, like, they're two legit ways of doing it, but because it was different, it was screwing with my mind, and I actually had to get a pen and paper. I don't know where I actually put my pen and paper. As a programmer, it's really hard to pick up a pen and paper and say, yeah, I need help. But after I actually wrote it down, it took me like 10 minutes to solve. And that's why I've got the whiteboard back there. So I'm actually solving problems on that. That's when I first came up with the idea of the render manager, and the texture manager, and all that stuff. That was all on the whiteboard. Without the whiteboard, I wouldn't have done that. Ah, Stephen. Stephen is breaking my balls, but it's fine. I'm only kidding, Stephen. So yeah, that's that. And just to show you how easy it is to actually like modify things, add things, I'm going to add in the option for up, down, left, and right, the keys on the keyboard, to change the camera position so we can look around. Okay? So, right, up, down. I don't know why I have them as floats. So, left equals, right equals. So these are values. It's because it's 1024 by 768 divided by 2. You just have 0, 0 in the middle in this case. Up equals 384, down equals minus 384. So we're going to go, what was that? Left, right, down, up. Okay. And then we're going to say if key hits, we go up. Yeah, sorry. Up plus delta times. So delta is the time it took for the last frame to render, because you're always one frame behind. So the delta is, to say you're at 60 frames a second, to be 1/60th of a second, which 0.016 of a second, I want to say. Doesn't matter. And so you times that by however fast you want something to move per second, so that if it goes up or down in frame rate, it looks smooth. So we'll say we want it to move, I don't know, 100 pixels a second. That's a bit slow. Let's go 200 pixels a second. And just to be lazy, this isn't necessarily efficient to do it like that. You wouldn't, I would think, do it like that. But I'm going to. That's what I actually have to do. Okay. Sorry for the stunted talking. I find it hard to multitask when I'm typing. It's because I am fucking useless. And this keyboard hurts my friggin' fingers. So left, right. Okay. Then we add in right. Now this would be a lot easier if it was like tracking the mouse or something, I think. But I can't really comprehend that in such a short amount of time. I'd have to actually think about it, and it wouldn't be as good. Alright, so let's run that. That did take me a while, but it's like, you know, it's not very much change. And now, hopefully, it doesn't make me look like an arsehole. So this shows that. So I want it to place hit with down. So I want it to be constantly doing it. I don't want it to just do it once when I press it. So now, whoa. My math is wrong. My math is very, very wrong. Well, I fucked something up, but you get the basic idea. That's my mum now. Fucking hell, everyone's breaking my balls. Why is that? I reckon it's because maybe it's a bit of a floating point error. Hopefully. Now it looks like I know what I'm talking about. Nope. I have no idea what the fuck I've done. Yeah, my math is really, really off. And this is what happens. This is how bugs happen. Don't code and record. It's bad for your health. Like, what have I done? I reckon it's D200 equals delta minus 200. I don't know why I'm trying to fix this on camera. I mean, no one's going to watch it. Sometimes, this is one problem I really did have, where it would times two numbers together and get different results, which is super frustrating. Okay. So what is it actually saying in my camera is now? It's saying it's 200 pixels wide and 130 pixels high. Okay. Okay. Oh, you know what? If that's it, I will be annoyed and I will explain why. Because I just realized why I have it like this. Fuck off. Breakpoints are amazing. If you don't use an ID in your program, you really should. There we go. So what was happening was, because it was what I changed just there. Where am I? I changed this int, which stands for integer, to a float, which stands for floating point number. Floating point number. Floating point number. Now an integer is, as you'd expect if you know any kind of maths, it's a full number, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It doesn't count decimal points. Floating point does count a decimal point. The reason it's called a floating point number, it's not like it's 1 dot and then 10 zeros. It'll be, you know, if it's 1,000, it will be 1,000.4 zeros. It won't be 1,000.8 zeros still. It won't have a definite point. It's a floating point. It goes left and right, depending on how many numbers you want to store, how big the number is. Now what this was doing was, because it was adding a decimal number, it was rounding up and down in such a way that it was fucking with the formula. So one might be rounding up, one might be rounding down. Because it was minus and plus, it would round to the middle, to the outside, whatever. So it was stretching it and making it smaller. So, you know, as I said, this is how bugs happen. When you rush, or when you're not looking, I'm pretty sure, no, I'm going the right way. And you can see that little graphical glitch, I think. Yeah, it's like tearing. That's because of the camera, though. It's compressing a little bit, tiny bit. So I got to work on, you know, ironing out that bug. But in the grand scheme of things, irrelevant. And look, clicky still works. Click, 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 click. And you saw how much code that is for the game. It's not very much. Like this is the most code, and that's just to add and subtract numbers. I mean, you could make it so much smaller, probably, but I mean, why bother? It works, and that's the whole point of why I spent so long doing it. Mostly because I get bored and then I do nothing for a while, and I don't have very much motivation. But other times it's just because I want to make sure that when I'm ready to make a game, which I am now, I can just pump things into it. I don't have to worry about the back end. I just do my front end. I do the game. I do the game mechanics and everything else, the rendering, you know, the texture loading, the file loading, audio, all that stuff. Actually, audio works as well. All that stuff's in the background, and it just works. And that's what I have to think about. So that was a longish rant about programming, long talk. I do hope you've enjoyed it, because I do like making these videos simply because I don't have anyone to talk to about programming, in a in-depth kind of way. At work, it's different. I work as a programmer and I come home and do programming, funny enough. I can talk about certain things, but I can't talk about games programming so much because I work in a business application programming place. If I want to talk about programming radios or Qt or HMIs or whatever else, to my heart's content at work. But not so much games. And I like it. I like talking to the invisible person on the other side of this camera, which is probably like 3 people. It's probably going to be Stephen, Matt, and Sam. Hello. But if anyone else, you've enjoyed it, you want to hear something else from me, you want me to show you something that I've done, you want me to show me doing something, you want me to stream programming, I mean, anything, just leave a comment. I'm open to any ideas. My life is fairly empty, I must say. And I'll leave it there. I once again hope you've enjoyed this. I have been Jason, and I will see you next time.